All right, let's dive into some really fascinating data today. We're going to uncover a kind of quiet revolution that's happening in higher education. We'll break down which departments at Taiwan's top university are absolutely surging in popularity, which ones are facing some new headwinds, and the massive forces that are driving this entire shift. Let's get right into it. You know, if you want to understand everything we're about to see, it all comes down to this one sentence right here. This is the key. What we're looking at isn't just some dry list of numbers. It's a snapshot of a huge pivot in what students, and by extension the job market, really value now. This is the story of how powerhouse industries like AI and semiconductors are fundamentally reshaping the future of talent.
So, let's start with the big question. Who are the big winners in this great reshuffle? We're going to kick things off by looking at the departments that are seeing absolutely explosive growth. These are the new titans, and man, their rise tells us a whole lot about the world we're all heading into.
First up, and this probably won't be a huge shocker to anyone, is the massive wave coming from Taiwan's world-leading tech industry. The demand for talent in AI and semiconductors is just so immense. It's creating this powerful gravitational pull, reshaping the whole landscape of science and engineering. It's a classic case of what the industry needs, academia provides. And what's really wild here is just how strong this trend is. I mean, of course, electrical engineering and computer science are way up. That makes perfect sense, right? But look at physics. That's a foundational science, and it's also seeing this huge surge in popularity. This tells you the industry doesn't just need people who can code, it needs people who deeply understand the fundamental principles that all this new tech is built on. It's a really broad, structural lift for the hard sciences. Okay, so if the rise of engineering was expected, this next one is the big surprise in all of this data. The department that saw one of the most incredible jumps in popularity isn't in science or tech at all. It's law. And believe it or not, its rise is directly connected to that same tech boom. Just look at that number. A jump of 0.0093. That belongs to the law department's judicial and financial law groups, which actually makes it the single biggest riser in this entire analysis. So, what's going on? Why, in an age that seems to be all about code and circuits, is the study of law becoming more popular than ever? Well, here's the deal. As technology gets more and more complex, the rules that govern it have to evolve just as fast. The explosion of AI is creating whole new areas of regulation. All these tech companies expanding around the globe need more experts in things like intellectual property and contract law. The key takeaway here is that this isn't just about traditional law. It's like a tech-driven renaissance for a humanities field. It proves that when one major sector grows, it has the power to pull others right up with it. And our third rising king, well, this one represents the old guard. These are the fields that have always been at the top, and in this new era, they're proving to be more resilient and desirable than ever. Of course, we're talking about medicine and dentistry. Wow, the numbers here are just staggering, right on the heels of law in terms of pure growth. Think about it. In an age where so many people worry about their jobs being replaced by AI, these fields are seen as not just AI-proof, but actually AI-enhanced. They offer incredible rewards, basically zero risk of unemployment, and a super clear, stable career path. It's no wonder that for so many people, they represent the safest and most prestigious bet you can make in an uncertain future. All right, so beyond those explosive growers at the very top, there are some other really important shifts happening in the middle of the pack. The story isn't just about tech, law, and medicine. There's a new set of skills that is quietly becoming more and more valuable. And that new core is all about having global competence. We're seeing this noticeable rise in political science, especially the international relations track, and solid growth in foreign languages. And it makes total sense, right? As the tech industry goes global and geopolitical situations get more complex, the ability to navigate international affairs and communicate across different cultures becomes a critical skill for business. It's another one of those ripple effects from the big trends we're seeing. Now, let's look at the other side of the coin. And it's really important we frame this the right way. We're not talking about failing departments here, not at all. Instead, these are fields that are facing a fundamental challenge from new technology and a changing job market. The whole value proposition is shifting in the age of AI. So here we see some of the biggest drops, and what's so striking is that many of them, like social sciences and business administration, used to be considered some of the most popular, stable choices out there. In fact, social sciences saw the single largest drop in the entire dataset. So the big question is, what happened? This slide really gets to the heart of the why. Think about the core tasks that were traditionally taught in business school: analyzing data, creating reports, drafting initial marketing strategies.
Well, a lot of those things are now being automated or seriously helped along by AI. The barrier to entry for performing these tasks is dropping, and it's dropping fast. So it's not that these skills are useless now, but their value is changing. The real demand is shifting to people who can combine that business sense with technical skills, creating new fields like AI plus finance.
And this trend doesn't just stop there. It extends across several other fields. You can see the decline affecting traditional business roles like accounting, but also some humanities departments, and even several agricultural and life sciences. The common threat for most of them seems to be a perceived weaker link to that booming tech industry, which right now means a less certain path to employment in today's market.
Okay, so we've seen the departments that are on the rise and the ones that are facing new challenges. Now let's just zoom out for a second and try to put it all together. What are the deep currents that are actually driving this great reshuffle? The source analysis suggests it really boils down to a few key forces.
When you really boil it all down, the analysis points to three huge driving forces behind this whole reshuffle. First, industrial power. Second, employment orientation. And third, policy changes. If you understand these, you can pretty much make sense of every single data point we've looked at so far. First, and this one is by far the most important, is industrial power. It's simple, really. Where the high-paying jobs are, that's where student interest is going to go. Taiwan's semiconductor and AI industries are global juggernauts, and they're acting like a giant magnet, pulling the most talented students into any field that's related to them, from engineering and physics all the way to the legal teams needed to support those industries. The second major force is a much stronger employment orientation. You know, in a world that feels increasingly uncertain, it makes sense that students and their parents are putting a higher premium on clear, direct paths to stable, high-paying careers. This trend naturally favors professions with very defined tracks and high job security, like doctors, lawyers, and engineers, while it poses a real challenge to fields where the career path might be a little less linear. So, after looking at all this data, what does it all mean for the future? And maybe more importantly, what could it mean for you? This data, it's not just about university admissions. It's a mirror reflecting how our entire economy and society are being reshaped by technology. The very definition of a valuable skill is changing faster than ever before. So the real question this leaves for all of us is pretty simple, but also pretty huge. In a world where AI is completely rewriting the rules of value, what will you choose to learn?